Hello, lovely beings. I'm JJ Rose. Well, with the holidays coming, fast approaching, this concept has come up more than a few times in my life and with people that have been talking to me, in which there are people who are just energy sappers. Sometimes we call them energy vampires, but these are more sappers and energy dumpers. These are the people who, when you see their name come up calling you, you kind of cringe a little bit inside because you just know they're calling you to vent and dump, and it's not reciprocal. I personally had one situation where it took about 3 times for me to understand. But the first and second time I talked to this person, afterwards, I got physically ill. And, just thought maybe it was chance, something else was brewing, and okay, that's what did it. And then the third time, when I hadn't gone anywhere and had not been exposed to absolutely anything, when it happened again, I realized it's because this person is literally dumping everything on me. And because the relationship was not set up in a way that I was expecting, that I was taking on all of this person's stuff. So, in that light, being that we are coming up to the holidays and there's going to be a lot of contact with friends and family and a lot of people reaching out and potentially a lot of situations that you might be in, whether it's physical or video or on the phone, in which you're going to be around people that maybe you would prefer not to, and or having to hear a whole lot of things from people and what they're going through in their lives and how to keep yourself energetically safe so that you're not taking on everyone else's everything, but also what's a really, really healthy way to kind of keep this stuff at bay so that you're not having to use so much energy protecting yourself from it. So, if you had a chance to listen to my other YouTube that I did called Instructional, a lot of what I'm going to go over today starts there. So, of course, if you're going physically somewhere or if you know in advance you're going to be scheduled to talk to somebody, please make sure you bubble up. Make sure that you're bubbled up yourself, do your triple bubble. If they're going to be coming to your space, make sure that you properly bubble your space as well. And just because it's a nice thing to do, you might want to light blast your house just so that it's a nice, warm, and inviting location for everyone to come and spend time. Now, without reinventing the wheel on all of that instruction, after you've done that, now you're left with, okay, people are coming over into your space. So what you can do is you can actually set an intent. And the intent that you're setting while you're bubbling your house and while you're also light blasting is that there is no negative energy from people coming over that is to be left behind, meaning they either take their baggage with them, or you can do something that I discovered recently, which is kind of exciting, which is I actually created a little energy hose between myself and another person. So how this ended up coming up is a situation was happening and I was physically with the person and it brought up a whole lot of stuff for them, very deep and very old stuff. And they were kind of venting and ranting about it, not only the current situation, but kind of all of it. And I realized it was not only coming out from them, but it was energetically kind of being thrown on me, like almost like paint splatters, right? And although I'm bubbled, I have my own bubble that I can feel the stuff coming at, and it's sliding off, but it has to go somewhere. And I really didn't want to keep this stuff in my space. So I ended up energetically just saying, okay, well, I don't really know what to do with all this, but I opened up a little hose, the same kind that I recommend when you're clearing yourself at the base of your spine, you open up. I opened one up in between the person and I as we were talking, and I physically told them, hey, all of this stuff that you're getting brought up right now, all this energy that needs to go somewhere, instead of just venting it and rehashing the wheel every time, why don't we throw it all down this hose to the center of the earth where it can be cleansed and recycled and used for something better so that you feel better at the end of this conversation. I'm not being coated in all of the stuff that you're venting out, and that this space also isn't going to be icky, and I'm not going to have to clean it 19 times physically and spiritually once we're done with this conversation. And you know what ended up happening? At the end of this conversation, where normally, like I said, we've been down this road a few times, normally at the end of this conversation, we're kind of left in this stasis, right? Like, it's kind of not our business. Nothing's really going to change, but we vented about it, and I guess we feel better for the moment, and then we have to kind of ignore it. But this time in particular, with throwing this energy down this hose to the center of the earth, we both felt better. And I noticed there wasn't that like lingering in the air after one of those really deep talks where there's really no way to resolve the issue because it's not 100% your issue to resolve, but you're dragged or sucked into it for whatever reason. And both of us felt better. The space felt better. We both felt better. And, you know, the person who was talking, who all this stuff was very deeply being brought up, they looked and felt better. They looked and felt lighter. So, of course, you know, I said, all right, well, let me try this out in one other aspect and see how it works. So this poor person who I've talked to a few times in the past and have gotten sick every single time I have talked to them, I decided to do a trial. And I'm talking to this person on the phone, so it's not physical. But what I ended up doing is envisioning as the person was talking through the phone that before the words got to me, the energy from the words went down this hose to the center of the earth. And I was actually able to talk to the person and not get sick afterwards. Huge bingo. But secondly, I noticed that I didn't hear from the person as quickly as I normally do thereafter. But also that the next time I talked to the person, that issue didn't come up again, which is extremely rare because all the times in the past that I've talked to them, it's always the same thing, kind of beating the same dead horse. But it was interesting because it didn't come up again. And I was like, oh, well, maybe in a way they actually were able to release it instead of having to rehash and dump it. So that was very kind and very nice. So I wanted to share that with all of you as just a little idea. If you're at a holiday party or if you have family or friends coming over, and you know, we all have somebody in our lives who's just a habitual energy dumper. That's what they do. And this isn't your normal venting, like friend to friend. It's reciprocal. This is just kind of negative Nelly, someone who just always comes and dumps their stuff and everyone else is left reeling from it. So if that ends up happening, if you're in a circle of people and really deep stuff's getting brought up, just kind of in your head, energetically, put that little hose in the middle of the room and let all that energy from everyone just come out and go down, down, down that hose to the center of the earth, where it's going to be cleansed and forged in fire, cleared up, and the energy gets to be used for something much more positive somewhere else. So the second part of this that I wanted to bring up was also something that got brought up multiple times over the past couple weeks. And I thought I would share it with you because this was a very, very interesting situation. The first instance started with someone I was talking to, and they were having this really nasty situation with the person that they lived with, where it was just, this person was just head over heels going for the jugular with them for absolutely no reason. There was really no direct contact. Their lives didn't really intersect. They were basically just roommates. But for whatever reason, this roommate just almost like an infatuation / jealousy with the person I was talking to. And, you know, I'm letting them vent, and I'm kind of asking questions to kind of suss out, like, where did this come from? You know, could this be like a crush that went awry? Nope, not that. Is this jealousy? Definitely. Is this the person just has no sense of self? Absolutely. And is this that the person is kind of vindictive because in a way they want to emulate this person that I'm talking to? Yes, 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 checking all the boxes. So the person's basically sitting there and they go, I don't know what to do. Like, I've done nothing to this person. I try to give them none of my energy, but I'm wasting all of this energy and time trying to protect myself from them. So we were talking about how best to protect their space because it's a little difficult when you're living together. And of course, when you're living together, you have leases and we have all these legal rules. It's not always easy to tell someone to just go take a hike. So we're trying to come up with a really healthy way to kind of get this other person off their back and off their case. And it pops into my mind, set the intent when you are bubbling your space that the other person just kind of forgets about you, like almost like an ignore me spell, but energetically, because this person isn't into witchcraft and I'm not pushing that if you're not into it. So we ended up doing a bubble and we set that intent of that this roommate would just kind of forget them and ignore them. And wouldn't you know, 3 days later, when the roommate comes back from this trip, it's almost like the person I was talking to didn't exist. Like, I mean, there was the, oh, hi, if they'd pass each other in the hall. And then the person put their notice in to move. I mean, and this was completely out of the blue because there was no conversation about it. They just called the property manager and said, hey, I want to give up my lease early. Is that okay? And everything worked out smoothly. So yay for that situation. So I'm listening to a podcast episode and it was Inquiries of Our Reality. And it was a couple of episodes where this couple is talking about how this man had this really vindictive and vicious ex-girlfriend. And for absolutely no reason that they can ascertain, this ex-girlfriend, who was energetically inclined, or which I'm not fully sure of the details, but basically was just throwing all this stuff at them. And they were spending so much time and energy in just trying to spiritually protect themselves from all the bombs this person was lobbing at them, energetically, spiritually, all this. I mean, talk about a story, but it was a story that, I would be very upset if it was someone I knew or anybody telling me this story of all this stuff happening. Because in a way you have to wonder, like, what is wrong with this ex person that they were the one that left in the first place, and then they're just bombarding these poor people so that they almost can't move on in their life. And so I'm hearing all these protection measures that they're doing, checking all the boxes. Okay, they've done this, they've done that. And then they get towards the end of the episode and basically there's no resolve. It's just, we're going to keep fighting on a daily basis in order to keep our space and our energy, away from hers. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, what? Like, that's a lot of energy and effort that you're needlessly spending for absolutely no reason. So I actually emailed the host, which a little bold of me, but Shane is very, very kind, at Inquiries of Our Reality. And I messaged him and I said, hey, I know this episode was probably recorded, a month or two before, but you might want to give them the following advice, which is for them to put the intent when they're protecting themselves in their space of an ignore me spell. And that this woman will just kind of forget that they even exist. And he said he would pass it along, and I have absolutely no clue what's happened since. But, that for me is what I would hope. If someone was taking energy to protect themselves to the point where it's almost consuming your daily life, isn't it easier just to want the other person to forget you or ignore you versus you having to stand guard consistently? And I mean, yes, there are a multitude of reasons why someone might not stop. But energetically, I feel like there's always an easier way to deal with issues versus having to fight. Because if you're constantly in the fight or flight mode, all you're doing is expending energy and you're surviving. You're not living. And let's face it, we all have an absolute right to live and just be and exist and have a day where we veg and do absolutely nothing if we want to. We should never be in a position where we feel like we're just completely being attacked on a consistent basis, so that we're not able to have those pause moments or just enjoy moments where you're sitting there and you look at the rain, or you look at the sunset, or you look at a pretty flower. I don't know what you're looking at, but whatever it is that you look at that you enjoy. Anything and everyone deserves that. So, for all of you out there, I hope that this gives some sort of a little heads up. There are energetic ways to deal with things that don't always involve fighting and being on guard. And I definitely talk about, fighting fear. And in a way, it is because you're taking your power back by doing things the healthy way. If you are in a situation where you're constantly fighting, you're not focusing, you're basically just focusing on fighting and arguing or being right or getting your way or whatever, getting out of the situation. It's those small moments when you're able to stop, take a second, and say, there's got to be an easier way to deal with this, right? There's got to be some sort of shortcut. And sometimes we need those situations to be a little arduous so that we can learn. But those stop, take a step back from all of it energetically, and just look at it third party and see, is there an easier way I could be dealing with this? Those are those awesome little moments where you get these great insights. So I know this one's kind of short and sweet, but I hope it helps somebody out there. I wish you all a wonderful holiday season. And if we don't talk before, Happy New Year. Wishing you all the best for this day and beyond. Make sure that you manifest your dreams on a daily basis.